In the 21st century, the very idea of a battlefield is changing. The lines of battle are being redrawn, not on a map, but in domains that are almost entirely out of sight. So today, we're going to explore a conflict that's happening all around us. This is the story of the Invisible War.
So let me start with a question that sounds like a riddle, but it's a real-world mystery that's been happening in some of the most critical places on the globe. Why are massive cargo ships in Dubai suddenly showing up on tracking systems as being in the middle of the Arabian desert? Or why do airline flights look like they're zigzagging impossibly across the sky? Now, what's going on here isn't just some computer glitch. It's absolutely deliberate.
The answer to that riddle is something called GPS spoofing. You see, it's a form of electronic warfare. Someone, somewhere, is broadcasting incredibly powerful, but fake GPS signals. These fake signals overpower the real ones coming from satellites, and they trick anything with a GPS receiver, we're talking your phone, a cargo ship, even a guided missile, into believing it's somewhere it's not.
And this whole GPS spoofing thing, well, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. It's one symptom of a much larger shift. The modern battlefield is expanding, moving beyond the physical world of tanks and soldiers and into the electromagnetic spectrum, a domain that's completely invisible to the naked eye. So this is our first stop, understanding how warfare itself is disappearing from view.
To really get why this is such a big deal, you just have to look at the journey GPS has taken. I mean, back in the 1991 Gulf War, it was basically a secret American weapon. There were only 16 satellites up there, and it let U.S. forces navigate the empty desert with unbelievable accuracy. But fast forward to today, and GPS is this global utility that we all depend on for everything. And in that transition, it's gone from a strategic military asset to a massive shared vulnerability.
And believe me, this vulnerability goes way beyond just spoofing your location. A recent intelligence report called the growing constellations of satellites a massive attack surface. Think about that. A successful hack wouldn't just mess with your map app. As the report warns, it could cause real, actual physical harm to people and to property.
Okay, so GPS operates on one part of this invisible spectrum, right? But other parts of that spectrum are now being weaponized in ways that honestly feel like they're straight out of science fiction. So now, let's dive into the world of new energy weapons.
When we say directed energy weapons, or DUs for short, what are we really talking about? Well, it boils down to three main types. First, you've got high-power lasers that can literally burn through targets. Second, there's microwave radiation, which can fry electronics or cause intense pain by heating a person's skin. And finally, you have particle beams, and you can think of those as subatomic bullets designed to rip a target's molecular structure apart.
Now, as you can probably guess, this kind of tech immediately runs into the very complicated laws of war. Back in 1995, a protocol was signed that explicitly banned lasers designed to cause permanent blindness. But what about so-called dazzlers? See, these are designed to temporarily blind or disorient people in sensors. The effect can be just as debilitating, but because the stated intent is different, they're exploiting a really dangerous legal gray area.
And this is what makes these weapons so insidious. Millimeter wave weapons, for instance, can cause excruciating pain by heating your skin, but they might not leave a visible mark. This makes their use incredibly easy to conceal, which creates huge problems for accountability and for getting justice for victims.
From the electromagnetic spectrum, we're now going to pivot to an even more personal battlefield. We're not just talking about our technology or our bodies anymore, but life itself. The threat of modern biowarfare is evolving way faster than most people realize.
You know, for a long time, bioweapons were considered too difficult to control for any kind of tactical use. I mean, they could easily spread back and infect your own troops. But that's changing. As this quote points out, recent advances in biotechnology now make it possible to produce limited biological weapons for the first time, and that completely changes the game.
And here's the part that's truly frightening: how accessible this has all become. Back in 2018, a jihadist in Germany, with no special scientific training, managed to produce the toxin ricin, which can be lethal. So how did he do it? He followed tutorials he found on the internet, he bought dual-use equipment online, and he used pretty basic resources. The barrier to entry for bioterror has just dropped, dramatically.
So we've looked at invisible waves and microscopic agents, but the next domain of conflict targets something just as intangible, and you could argue even more powerful: information. In this battle, the goal isn't to destroy a city, but to fundamentally shape and control reality itself. So what does this number mean? 126 million. This is the number of American users reached by Russian-planted content on Facebook alone during the 2016 presidential election. It's just a staggering figure that shows you the industrial scale of these modern information operations.
You see, the old model of authoritarian control was pretty simple, just silent dissent, basic censorship. But the new model is far more sophisticated. It's what one analyst calls censorship through noise. You don't block information. Instead, you flood the zone with so much disinformation, so many half-truths and conspiracy theories that people just give up and no longer know what to believe.
And this brings us to the final and definitely the most personal battlefield. After the electromagnetic spectrum, our biology, and the information space, the ultimate target of this invisible war is the human mind itself. This is the new domain of cognitive warfare.
Now, this slide makes a really critical distinction. We've all heard of psychological operations, right? POS. As you can see on the left, that's about targeting what you believe, using things like fear or cultural stories. But cognitive warfare on the right, that's totally different. It targets how you think. It aims to overload your senses, create errors in your judgment, and exploit your own cognitive biases to disrupt the very process of forming a belief in the first place.
There's this powerful quote from a neuroethicist named James Giordano that just perfectly captures this shift. He called out the brain as the site for the battlefields of the 21st century. The human brain isn't just a passive receiver of propaganda anymore. It's now seen as the strategic territory that has to be captured or neutralized.
So what's the ultimate goal here? It's to shatter a society from the inside. By attacking the cognitive processes of its citizens, you can erode their trust in institutions, in the media, in science, even in each other, until that society simply can't function as a whole anymore.
And this brings us to the final and maybe most important takeaway: none of these domains exist in a vacuum. This diagram shows what experts call the convergence of nano, bio, info, and cogno technologies. Let's just connect the dots. The infotech we talked about makes creating the bioweapons way easier. The cogno warfare we just explored is delivered through those same info platforms. And new nanotech could enable entirely new delivery systems for all of it. It's all merging into one complex, interconnected, and largely invisible system of conflict.
Which leaves us with a final and pretty unsettling question. In a world where battlefields are everywhere and nowhere all at once, fought with weapons we can't see, targeting the very way we think, how do we even begin to recognize what's real anymore? And how do we possibly defend the truth?